So I've been talking about hiring and the approach that we take at Fraction and filtering fast in order to whittle a pool down. Once you've got the pool whittled down a bit, how do you what should the first round interview be? Well, in my opinion, I think you go deep right up front. And so that means that some form of technical screening oftentimes is the right approach right at that stage. And so what do I like to do there? Well, we've actually seen two different things. We've seen, let me focus in on software developers for a moment. There's two key skills or two key skill areas that we're able to interview for. One is actual tech skills, let's say, and the other is communication skills. And we found that they're equally important. We've actually also found good results starting with either filter as long as we go deep and really test the capability needed. So let me get specific there. Let me start with communication because this one is perhaps non-obvious. We discovered it more recently, but here I'm going to share it. What that is that we do what we call our Slack test. So we have found that a substantial, non-trivial percentage of folks who want to work remotely, they actually can't communicate on Slack or Teams or any of these modern tools. They're very bad at it. And by the way, this is not an age-specific statement. We have found young candidates that are completely incompetent on these tools. We have found old candidates that are completely incompetent on these tools. We have found it cut across every sort of, however you want to slice a pool, that there are people that are good at communicating with modern tools and there are people that are not good at it. And so the Slack test has proven to be a very effective approach for us. And, that's literally 10 minutes, where we jump in and we actually invite people into a Slack chat and we see how do they communicate. Because even if they communicate verbally well, they may not do this. And so you kind of want to touch on both. And so we found that the Slack test, because most communication in modern remote work, particularly in the tech world, a huge percentage of it happens via tools like Slack. We test that. That enables us to whittle the pool, and get rid of folks that just frankly can't communicate in the necessary medium. All right, so that's an easy one. I put tech skills up here, but let me describe it in more detail. What do I do when it comes to actual technical screening? Well, first of all, I think you can do it quickly. And when I say quickly, I think that ideally it's less than 20 minutes. It doesn't take a lot of time. I think that it is important to do a live coding interview. There's a lot of debate about this. You'll see on LinkedIn, you'll see on other places, the hatred that many developers express towards these kinds of interviews. So why do I think that they're effective if there's so much kind of sort of criticism of live coding interviews? Well, is it a high stress kind of a scenario? Yeah, it is a high stress scenario. You're being asked questions, you're being asked to work while someone else watches you. For better or worse, we find that in the high stress situations of real life work, particularly when you're coming into an organization as a new sort of outside person, that is exactly how it feels. And the best folks are able to deliver under fire, under a certain degree of stress. Now, they shouldn't be asked to, paint a Picasso, so to speak, under those conditions. What I ask for is regular, everyday stuff, so we'll call it regular, everyday code. So, say you're a full stack developer, well, then I expect you to write a small amount of business logic. I expect you to show me how you can expose that as a service, like a REST JSON API or something like that. And then I ask you, well, can you create a component, say a React component, or if you like, Vue or Angular, a component in any of those frameworks that calls the service that you just created, and can you show me that top to bottom? That should be very easy. Even easier in the era of Copilot and these modern tools that can help you with syntax and actually help you even generate large percentages of the answer, that should be pretty easy. Can you then show me that you can execute that code in your development environment? If you can do all of those things, chances are you program for a living. And that's really the goal at this level, is to see, do people actually do this? And then you can get into deeper questions from there. But in terms of filtering fast and having a less than 20-minute interview that is live and that is coding, this is the key question. Do you, program or code, however you want to call it, do you program for a living? That's the essence of what I'm trying to get to. And I see that this is not difficult at all for the right candidates. So between this test and between the Slack test, we're talking about really half an hour of total screening, and we can filter out the vast majority of candidates with just that.